So, amid the COVID-19 crisis, we've been getting news of more diseases coming to the fore. For instance, tick-borne diseases. And I wanted to talk a little bit about tick-borne diseases because, well, they can be pretty gnarly. I'll show just how gnarly they can be later on. For now, we have the novel Bunyavirus infection caused by tick bites. And it can be passed from person to person. Oh boy. This is dated August 8th, so it's kind of old news. I'll have to search a little bit more about this. So, a total of 37 people in East China's Jiangsu province has been diagnosed with severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome, SFTS, a disease caused by the novel Bunyavirus, which is spread by ticks. Novel meaning it's never been encountered before. Experts have warned that the virus can be transmitted from person to person. Okay, that's pretty scary. A deadly virus has re-emerged in China, infecting now more than 60 people and killing 7. It's actually killed now. The highly pathogenic Tick-Borne novel Bunyavirus can lead to thrombocytopenia syndrome. It causes a viral hemorrhagic fever and has re-emerged in rural areas of China. CNA reports that a 65-year-old tea farmer in China's Jiangsu province recently fell ill with a fever of 40 degrees Celsius and repetitive cough. And it's a virus, so it might even cross with the coronavirus to create an even bigger, well, most likely it's not going to happen, but, well, you know how these things work. You can never truly account for variables. So Jiangsu province is basically near where Shanghai is. So it's this. That is Jiangsu. And there's Nanjing. And there's Shanghai. It's not that near from Wuhan. But look at that. Just a little bit off right to the south. Oh, this is where my ancestors came from. So there's that. There's not much of a Wikipedia entry on this thing. So it really is novel. But it looks like there's no more further reports on this. Maybe the Chinese media is suppressing it. Severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome is an emerging infectious disease caused by Bubonic, also known as the SFTS virus, first reported between late March and mid-July 2009 in the rural areas of Hubei and Henan provinces in central China. So wait a minute, it was from central China and then it re-emerged in East China. It's traveling across the country. SFTS has a fatality rate ranging from 12% to as high as 30% in some areas. Major clinical symptoms include fever, vomiting, diarrhea, multiple organ failure, thrombocytopenia, which is low platelet count, leukopenia, low white blood cell count, and elevated liver enzyme levels. So thrombocytopenia, well, basically, since you have low platelet count, you're unable to blood clot. So you become a hemophiliac, pretty much. One of the diseases we know of that causes thrombocytopenia is dengue fever. Something we're very familiar with. Me, myself included. I've had dengue fever before in 2009. Luckily, I was able to get to hospital. Well, 4 days later, once the blood test results came in. The Bubonic, also known as SFTS virus, is a tick-borne virus in the genus Bunyavirus in the family Bunyavirus, order Bunyavirales. SFTS is an emerging infectious disease that was first described in northeast and central China 2009. And it has now also been discovered in Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Taiwan in 2015. Whoa! So this is not the first time. It has a fatality rate of 12%, as high as over 30% in some areas. So, okay, the virus that causes it now from the ticks, kind of still novel, but people have known of this condition for 11 years now. That's interesting. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to talk a little bit about tick-borne diseases. And the most prominent among which is Lyme disease. If you live in northeast United States, you'll encounter this. One prominent celebrity who've had Lyme disease is Avril Lavigne, and the thing about Lyme disease is so little is known about it, even though it's been around since the 80s. It's super hard to diagnose and even harder to treat, in the sense that once you've had Lyme disease, you're going to feel its after effects for the rest of your life. Well, that's from what I hear. I'm not an expert on diseases, so I can only talk about what I hear and read about. So, Lyme disease is caused by 4 main species of bacteria. 4? But well, it's a bacterial disease. So what? Antibiotics can fight this, right? Well, then again, antibiotics, having to take them is in itself a risk. I would know because I've had to take a lot of antibiotics over the last 5 years. Nowadays, not anymore, because, well, it seems that my tonsils are now more or less under control. You're more likely to get Lyme disease if you live or spend time in grass and heavily wooded areas where ticks carrying Lyme disease thrive. They come from deer, right? Deer ticks. But yeah, you get a rash and a lot of other symptoms that make you super weak. You get a lot of joint pain and neurological problems. That's what really hits people. Once your nerves are damaged or impinged or whatever, things happen to your body. Like, you're unable to do anything. You're unable to have normal bodily functions. You just... I don't know, I wouldn't say rot from the inside, but you wither. You basically wither. And slowly but surely you turn into a husk. Because muscle atrophy, progressive organ failure, stuff like that. Only a minority of tick bites lead to Lyme disease. The longer the tick remains attached to your skin, the greater the risk of disease. Lyme infection is unlikely if the tick is attached for less than 36 to 48 hours. That is gnarly. And Lyme disease, the more you read about it, the more you hear about it, the gnarlier it gets. But that's not even the weirdest tick-borne disease out there. There's this. Oh boy, the infamous alpha-gal syndrome. Alpha-gal. Do you turn into the ultimate feminist? No. Alpha-gal syndrome is a recently identified type of food allergy to red meat and other products made from mammals. If you get alpha-gal syndrome, you have to start becoming a vegan. In the United States, the condition most often begins when a Lone Star tick bites someone. What a name. Lone Star tick. Does the tick have a cowboy hat on, carrying around a 6-shooter? Shoot people with alpha-gal syndrome? This Clint Eastwood-looking motherfucker of a tick. It gets its name from the bite transmitting a sugar molecule called an alpha-gal into the person's body. This triggers an immune system reaction that later produces mild to severe allergic reactions to red meat. What a fucking infection, like Jesus Christ. Out of all the things you have to be allergic to, and, food allergies are, because, come on. You are what you eat, so you gotta get nutrition from where you can get it, right? From the best sources possible. And no longer being able to eat meat, it limits your dietary choices. Lone Star tick is found predominantly in southeastern United States. Thus Lone Star. I guess they found it in parts of Texas. But yeah, tick-borne diseases, as if we need it. Like, there's bubonic plague, and yeah, while we're at it, yes, the bubonic plague is still around. Well, of course, the bubonic plague, infamous for the Black Death in the 14th century. The thing about bubonic plague now, in the 21st century, is it's curable, because we know what it is. The bubonic plague is caused by the bacteria Yersinia pestis, which was carried by fleas from rats, although its origins come from marmots in Mongolia. And likely those fleas migrated during the conquests of Genghis Khan from East Eurasia to parts of Europe, and then it later spread even more. But nowadays it can be cured by antibiotics. Quite a sizable course of antibiotics, but it's curable now, just like Just like tuberculosis. What used to be really deadly diseases back in the day, nowadays there's treatment for it. But still, bubonic plague is there's a reason why it's called the Black Death. It basically rots you. You get these buboes, these the swelling of the lymph nodes turn it black, and then it turns into gangrene and shit. Like, man, that is really gnarly. It killed off a third of Europe's population. A third of it. The result of which actually changed the course of politics. It accelerated the transition from a feudal system to something that we now regard as more modern. And the bubonic plague been cited in Inner Mongolia recently. Apparently kids were eating marmot. Why? I don't know. In the provinces, people cook up rats all the time. Authorities in Chinese region of Inner Mongolia has sealed off a village after a resident there died from bubonic plague. The death was reported to health authorities in Baotou City on Sunday, and the victim was confirmed to be a bubonic plague patient on Thursday. Oh boy. But this is not the first time we've had a bubonic plague outbreak in the 21st century. In fact, I've known of this since 2014. Madagascar! Out of all the places you can have plague, Madagascar. The place you want to hit when you're playing Plague Inc. or Pandemic. From 1st of August to the 22nd of November 2017, a total of 2,348 confirmed, probable, and suspected cases of plague, including 202 deaths, a case fatality rate of 8.6%. There were 1,791 cases of pneumonic plague. A lot of people don't know that. There are two types of plague. There's bubonic plague, the one with the swelling lymph nodes, and then there's pneumonic plague, which is in the lungs. Oh wait, there's a third one, septicemic plague, which basically gives you sepsis. Your blood gets poisoned. Yeah, a lot of these cases happened in 2017, but cases have already been reported as early as 2014. I remember because I watched a Vice documentary on it the same time when ISIS was at the height of its power. Those were the times, weren't they? Instead of having to deal with COVID-19, you could watch, you just hang around, watch documentaries about plague and ISIS. Those were good times, actually. I was in the midst of depression in 2014, sure, but they were interesting times because I was watching a lot of really interesting documentaries. That was also when my love affair for studying history really started. But man, we don't need this. We don't really need this. Plague and tick-borne diseases in the midst of COVID-19? Whew, 2020 is not letting up, is it? But then again, maybe everything just came to a head in 2020. Things have been getting worse in some respects. Well, hopefully things are also getting better in other respects. You can only hope. Stay positive. Till next time, stay Tor.